Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. In Game 2 of the NBA Finals, the Bucks once again lost a hard-fought battle to the Phoenix Suns by a final score of 118 to 108. This was a very similar game to what happened in Game 1 in terms of the game flow. Once again, it was a tightly contested first quarter, and in the second quarter, the Suns started to build up a lead. That lead mostly stayed the same throughout the second half until the Bucks went on a big run at the first half of the fourth quarter, and unfortunately, after that big run, after Milwaukee had cut the lead all the way down to 5 points, after it got all the way up to 15 at one point, Giannis Antetokounmpo suffered a minor injury to his lower leg. This led to Giannis sitting out just a few possessions, but in those two possessions that Giannis sat out, the Suns made two big shots to take the lead back from 5 points to 10, and from there it was smooth sailing for Phoenix as they earned their second consecutive victory over Milwaukee. Giannis took a huge effort to get the Bucks to the point where they were able to narrow the lead down to as small as it was. This was a truly historic game from Giannis, and I think that it's clearly the first thing that I need to talk about. This actually was historic, as Giannis had 20 points in the third quarter alone, and that was the most points scored in a single quarter of an NBA Finals game in the past 28 years. The last player to score more than that was Michael Jordan. So when you say that, you know that Giannis was doing something special tonight, and overall, this was just a really fantastic game from the Greek Freak. Giannis had 42 points and 12 rebounds, along with 3 blocks, while shooting 15 for 22 from the field, including 14 for 17 on 2-pointers and 11 for 18 from the free throw line. In the third quarter stretch where Giannis really started going bananas on the Suns defense, he was getting to the free throw line possession after possession. And unfortunately, on most of those free throw possessions, he's only able to make one out of the two. But in general, the fact that he was able to at least make one and shoot a decent 11 for 18 from the line was definitely solid. And he was also terrific when the Suns were not able to put him on the line. He did a great job of attacking the basket in transition, including the first play of the game where he came away with a steal and thread through the Suns defense en route to having a fast break slam. He was not able to get going in transition in Game 1, and that was something I talked about after Game 1. So it's good to see him continue to get back to his true form, and if this truly is his form, then watch out, Suns. You are in trouble moving forward. Antetokounmpo also did a great job of attacking in the half court, as he was terrific going one-on-one against either DeAndre Ayton, Jay Crowder, or even Mikal Bridges, any one of the individual defenders that the Suns threw at him, whether that be on a preferred matchup or a switch. Giannis was not afraid to attack, and he was easily able to get to the basket. He also made some tough mid-range pull-up jump shots and turnaround jump shots, and just couldn't seem to miss in general unless it was from beyond the three-point arc. Giannis did make 1 3 in today's game, but he missed 4 to go along with that. Many of them were not terrible shots, as I think only one of them was an egregious pull-up, and the rest of them came mostly in the flow of the offense, but still not necessarily the best shot for Giannis. There's nothing really to critique here, though. Antetokounmpo was great on both ends of the court, as he also had some really huge plays on defense, including one block on a Mikal Bridges shot. I think it's the shot that Giannis ended up getting injured on, but it was just a ridiculous block where he soared for a rejection, and yeah, I just come away with this game so impressed with Giannis, and if there was anyone doubting his place as a top 5 player in today's NBA heading into tonight, well, I think that he probably should have changed that perception of himself with this performance alone to go along with what has been a fantastic playoff run for Antetokounmpo. After Game 1, the biggest question for the Bucks would be how they would adjust to the onslaught of pick-and-roll scoring that came in the form of Devin Booker and Chris Paul mid-range jump shots and free throws taken. The free throws were solved in this game, as neither of those players got to the line much at all, as I think Paul shot 1 free throw and Booker shot none. However, both of them were still able to have really efficient games despite the Bucks switching up their defense. Instead of playing a 1-5 switching scheme, Coach Mike Budenholzer adjusted to a drop pick-and-roll defense with Brook Lopez playing that conventional pick-and-roll that we've seen from Milwaukee so much over the past few years. In addition to Brook playing in the drop, the Bucks were switching every screening action between the 1-4 players, and that led to the Suns creating some mismatches. However, those mismatches weren't nearly as terrible as they were when it was Brook Lopez or Bobby Portis switched on to Chris Paul or Devin Booker, and because of that, the Bucks were really able to make it difficult for those players to get anything going towards the basket. They were forced to make difficult jump shots, and while they were able to do that, it's definitely a good sign that their shot profile was much more difficult than it was in Game 1. They both ended up having nice stat lines. Paul had 23 points and 8 assists while shooting 10 for 20 from the field and 3 for 5 from the three-point line, but Milwaukee clearly made it difficult on him as he had 6 turnovers, which is a very non-Chris Paul-like stat. Devin Booker was even better than Paul in this game as he had 31 points and 6 assists while shooting 12 for 25 from the field and 7 for 12 from the three-point line, but overall, it felt like Booker just made some really difficult spots, especially those three-pointers, as many of them came off the dribble with a hand in his face. D-Book just couldn't miss on some of those tough shots, and when that happens, sometimes as a defensive team, you just have to tip your cap. Booker also made some shots at very key points during this game where it felt like Milwaukee was starting to go on a run. Whenever that happened, Booker would just knock down a three-pointer and take the Suns' lead from 7-10 or 6-9 or whatever it may have been. A huge clutch performance game from Booker tonight, and I come away so wildly impressed with this young man. However, once you talk about Paul and Booker, I actually think that the man that killed the Bucks the most in this game was a role player for the Suns in Mikal Bridges. Bridges had a career night, scoring 27 points on 8 for 15 shooting from the field, 3 for 9 shooting from the three-point line, and 8 for 8 shooting from the free throw line. Bridges got off to a great start in the first quarter by making the Bucks pay for overhelping off of him in help on Booker and Paul, and Bridges got going with his corner three-pointers. That's an area where the Bucks didn't give up too much in Game 1, but as they switched their defense, that started to open up for the Suns, and they definitely made the Bucks pay. Bridges from there was able to utilize shot fakes and get himself to the mid-range where he was able to knock down some shots in the face of Bucks defenders, particularly Brook Lopez, who once again was in the drop instead of coming up higher on those pick and roll actions. Bridges also was able to get all the way to the rim and create some contact to get to the free throw line. Not all of his 8 free throws came off of driving fouls, as a couple of them came at the end of the game in garbage time, but I was just so impressed with the way Bridges played in this game. He also was much better on Chris Middleton than he was in Game 1, and that allows me to segue into my next topic, which is the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo had a great night, but the Bucks weren't able to take advantage of it because the Greek Freak simply did not get any help. The one other player on the Bucks who I actually thought had a good performance today was Pat Connaughton. Connaughton chipped in 14 points on 5 for 10 shooting from the field and 4 for 9 shooting from the three-point line. He made some really key three-pointers throughout the course of the game for the Bucks, and that allowed him to get off to a 3 for 4 start from beyond the arc. From there, he started to hit a bit of a lull as he would miss his next 3 three-pointers, and each of those would have been key for the Bucks as they came at important junctures of the third and fourth quarters, but Pat was able to hit another one in crunch time to cut the Suns' lead from 8 points to 5, I believe. From there, he also had a really nice putback on the offensive end of the court where he grabbed an offensive board and went right back up with it for a layup. Connaughton had a really nice game as a rebounder as he grabbed 7 boards, and 4 of those were offensive as he did a really nice job of putting himself in position on the offensive glass, and he was able to come away with some huge tip backs to Bucks players for those extra possessions. Connaughton played 34 minutes and was great for the Bucks tonight, and I cannot overstate how important he's been to this team throughout this playoff run. When I come out with my season review video on Pat C, I'm going to have a very favorable grade for him. Outside of Pat, Giannis didn't get any help. Jrue Holiday was terrible once again, which was the same as it was in Game 1, and it's really a shame because Holiday has had a nice playoff run, and he continues to be very impactful and positively impactful for the Bucks on defense. Today he had 2 steals and 2 blocks, made some huge plays for the Bucks, allowing them to get out in transition, and did a great job of pressuring Chris Paul and Devin Booker full court and not allowing those players to get comfortable at all, regardless of where they were on the court. However, Drew really struggled on offense. He ended up having some solid stats, very close to his season averages with 17 points and 7 assists, but he just could not get any shots to fall as he was just 7 for 21 from the field. This was not in the same way that it was in Game 1, as in Game 1, I thought Holiday was settling too much and not having smart shot selection, but in this game, Holiday rarely settled for tough jump shots. Yes, he did do that on occasion, but most of the time, it felt like Holiday was getting to the basket with ease. He just was not finishing his shots at the rim, and a lot of that goes to DeAndre Ayton. He deserves a lot of kudos for the defense he played on Holiday. He's probably going to get torn to shreds because Giannis did so well against him in this game, but as a help defender, Ayton was quite good in this one. But Holiday just needs to do a better job of finishing at the basket. And Chris Middleton also really struggled. He had 11 points on 5 for 16 shooting and 1 for 6 shooting from beyond the arc. He played much better in the second half than he did in the first half, but because Giannis had the ball in his hands so much in that second period, Chris wasn't really able to get going. When he did have open shots, he knocked them down, but he wasn't hunting out those looks like he did in Game 1. He followed up that terrific Game 1 performance with a real stinker here in Game 2. And I think that the biggest key for the Bucks moving into their home court advantage part of this series is going to be great play from Holiday and Middleton. I thought that their defense was really good in this game. They forced Phoenix into a difficult shot profile, and the Suns just made some really tough shots. Giannis was great in this game, and they got some solid contributions from the bench, with Pat Connaughton being terrific and Jeff T giving them some decent minutes as well. The biggest improvement area needs to come from Holiday and Middleton, and if those two can't play better, I don't give the Bucks much of a chance in the rest of this series. However, if they can step it up and play the way they did in Games 5 and 6 against the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bucks still have a definite chance to win this series, and I'm really excited to see what happens as the series moves back to Milwaukee and we get to see the Bucks play in front of their hometown fans at Fiserv Forum. If you're going to that game, be sure to cheer your heart out because they're going to need you. They're going to feed off of that energy, and it's just going to be a lot of fun to be in that building. With that being said, thank you for watching, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this game and what potential adjustments you think Coach Mike Budenholzer needs to make as the series swings back to Milwaukee. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.